So today we're here to talk about the distance formula, or rather, how can I find the distance between these 2 points maybe without using the distance formula? Okay, I have no doubt in Algebra 1 they most likely have presented this formula and taught you how to label the first point as x1, y1, the second point as x2, y2, and then they've taught you to plug into this formula. But I'm going to put a little bit of a geometry spin on this. Okay, so bear with me because this looks more confusing than it really is. I'm going to say that the distance between these 2 points is really the same thing as finding the length of the segment that connects those 2 points. So let's go ahead and put that segment in there so you can visualize. Okay, can you see it? Can you follow what I'm saying? The distance between these 2 points is the same thing as the length of that segment. Sounds easy enough. So why does it matter if I say the distance between the points or the length of the segment? What's the difference in the wording? Okay, so let's look at a specific example. I've got the point 3, -2, and 9, 5. I want to find the distance between the 2 points. Okay, I could in fact plug into the formula and it'll definitely compute the distance between them. But what if the formula is not in front of you? What if you can't remember the formula? Remember, the formula has lots of addition and subtraction signs and everything has to be exactly precise in order for it to work. So here's what I'm proposing. Okay, starting at this point, I'm going to run a line, or a ray if you prefer, straight to the right. Okay, starting at this point, I'm going to drop it straight down. So I'm going to keep extending those until they form this triangle, which gives me a right angle right there. Okay, so next, I'm going to find the length of this segment from this point and to the intersection point. And I can do that because I know that I started here at 3 and I've traveled to the right until I've gotten to 9. So 3 to 9 gets me a distance of 6. Okay, I'm going to find the distance on this side, or the length of this side. So again, I know that I'm down here at -2, and I have to go all the way up until 5. So from -2, that's 2 below, to 5 above, that's a length of 7. So I've got a right triangle, this side 6, this side 7. I can now use Pythagorean theorem. Nobody forgets Pythagorean theorem. I can use Pythagorean theorem to find this side. Okay, so quick reminder, Pythagorean theorem. Most of you are going to say a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to put the c squared first because that's the side I want to solve for. This is my side c. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's go ahead and plug the numbers in. Plugging in the 6 and the 7, doesn't matter which one's a and which one's b as long as they're both the legs. Okay, 6 squared gets me 36. 7 squared gets me 49. I add those guys together and I get 85. Does that mean that this is the length of 85? No way. That's the length squared. C squared is 85. So we have to square root both sides. Okay, square rooting both sides, I get C as the square root of 85. Okay, depending on how your teacher wants the answer, you're going to either leave it as a radical or put in your calculator and get a decimal. For my class, I'd rather you leave it as the radical unless otherwise directed. So let's put those formulas side by side. Again, it is a personal preference. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to memorize the distance formula or do you prefer to memorize Pythagorean theorem? Most people will choose to memorize the Pythagorean theorem, but you might be thinking, I don't want to draw that triangle every single time. By the time I draw the triangle, I might as well just use the distance formula. So let's look at that. Okay, so new example. Take a look, take it all in. I've got the point -5, 3 up here, and I've got the point 2, -1 down here. Now look at what I've done. I have found the distance, okay, or the length of this side by comparing -5 and +2. So 5 to the left to 2 to the right gives me a length of 7. Now how did I find the 4? I went from the -1 to the 3. So 1 below to 3 above gives me a length of 4. So really my question is, do I need the triangle? If I know that this side of the triangle is just comparing the two y values, or let's say it like it is, the distance between the y values gives me that side, and the distance between the x values gives me this side, I'm saying we don't actually need the triangle. So quickly, let me finish the problem just to be all thorough, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this time my numbers are 4 and 7, which squared give me 16 and 49. They add to 65. The square root of 65 does not simplify. So the length of this segment, or the distance between these 2 points, is the square root of 65. Okay, so last example, real quick. I want to show you how the Pythagorean theorem is faster because you don't need to draw the triangle. Visualize it. Understand the concept. Where do the side lengths come from? Take a minute, pause the video, and see if you can come up with your a and b for your a squared plus b squared equals c squared equation. All right, let's see how you did. If I am looking at the distance between -10 and -4, the distance between them would be 6. If I'm looking for the distance between 7 and 2, or 2 and 7, doesn't matter which way you look at it, the distance between them is 5. So a squared becomes 36, b squared becomes 25. Add them together, I get the square root of 61. Doesn't simplify. So the distance between those, if you would rather write this as d instead of c, the distance between them is the square root of 61, and I'm done. Okay, so real quick, I know I've put this in previous videos, but midpoint formula, distance formula, slope formula. Yes, the formulas are out there. Yes, you can use them if you can remember them. But what happens when the formulas are not sitting on a piece of paper or on your iPad right next to you? What happens when you're taking the ACT or the SAT and you can't remember the formula? Okay, my whole point of these videos is to get you to see that you don't have to rely on a formula if you understand what the formula represents. So you may need to go back and rewatch some of the other videos, but for me, I'm not going to use a midpoint formula. I'm going to find the middle x, find the middle y. Okay, I'm not going to use the distance formula. I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. And I'm not going to use a slope formula. I'm going to use rise over run. I'm going to use the concepts rather than rely on some formulas.